The Ron DeSantis campaign was playing up for days that yesterday DeSantis would have a major interview on CNN during which he would address policy. He would lay out his views on foreign policy, domestic policy, woke, anti-woke, the whole thing. Jake Tapper had the pleasure, I guess, of interviewing Ron DeSantis. The interview was a disaster. First of all, DeSantis answered almost no questions whatsoever. His head bobbling almost off the frame during the interview, sitting in a bizarre way. Just every detail about DeSantis, including the bizarre look on his face for most of the interview, just pathetic. Let's start with what was pressing at the time of this interview. Jake Tapper asking DeSantis, if Jack Smith has evidence that Trump committed crimes, should he be held accountable? And DeSantis essentially defends Trump.
If Jack Smith has evidence of criminality, should Donald Trump be held accountable?
So here's the problem. This country is going down the road of criminalizing political differences. And I think that's wrong. Alvin Bragg stretched a statute in Manhattan to be able to try to target Donald Trump. Most people, even people on the left, acknowledge if that wasn't Trump, that case would not have likely been brought against a normal civilian. And so you have a situation.
Now, it sounds like the argument DeSantis is making is if a normal civilian engaged in financial fraud, if a normal civilian did what Trump did with classified documents, they wouldn't have been charged. That's not a very good argument. In fact, the problem we've really been dealing with for some period of time is that people like Trump have been above the law. And what I know I've been saying it to a point that you all know and are probably sick of hearing. The Trump charges are the possibility that Trump is not above the law. And in that sense, we should be happy about it. Then the topic of abortion came up. And DeSantis again floats the lie of the post-birth abortion in blue states. Jake Tapper did not do a good job of saying that's completely untrue. But part of the question here is, would you support a federal abortion ban? DeSantis won't answer. And this was the theme of this interview. He wouldn't actually answer the question.
You recently signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. Yes or no, would you support that as a nationwide ban?
So I said I'm pro-life. I will be a pro-life president, and we will support pro-life policies. At the same time, I look at what's going on in the Congress, and I don't see them making very much headway. I think the danger from Congress is if we lose the election, they're going to try to nationalize abortion up until the moment of birth. And in some liberal states, you actually
notice there's no answer here. And then he goes into the lies.
Have post-birth abortions, and I think that that's wrong. Also, with respect to the military thing that we talked about, we're going to reverse the abortion tourism policy in the Department.
Abortion tourism is not a term that's going to get you too many votes, even from many Republicans. That I can assure you.
Defense. They are actually paying people to go and get abortions with American tax dollars as part of the military. They won't even pay you. You lose a loved one. You don't get that type of time off to be able to go to do funerals. And so we're going to continue to stand for life, and we're going to make sure that everybody knows that.
Okay. Jake Tapper not holding him accountable about post-birth abortions. This is a lie that they won't stop repeating. Jake Tapper should know better, should have confronted him. All right, so there's that. Then, again, not answering questions, DeSantis is asked by Jake Tapper, would you push Zelensky to give Russia some territory in order to end the war? And again, DeSantis won't answer.
Would you push Zelensky to make concessions to Russia to cede land that Russia seized in its attack?
So what I would say is what the goal should be a sustainable, enduring peace in Europe, but that one that does not reward aggression.
Jake, answers are woke. And if you think you're going to get me to answer questions here, and now this is where questions go to die.
And there's going to be different levers that you're going to be able to pull.
Levers.
We will pull some levers against Russia.
He's going to pull levers. God.
We're going to be much more aggressive on energy and export because I think that's been Putin's lifeline. I want the Europeans dependent on the United States for that, not him. We're also going to turn the screws on the Iranians. The Iranians have been one of Putin's biggest benefactors, and they've benefited from Biden's approach there. So we'll use the leverage that we have, but the goal is going to be a sustainable peace that does not reward aggression.
So no answer there, as you can see, very, very clearly, just not answering questions. Then the topic of wokeness came up, and I won't even introduce this one. It's very funny. Listen.
We did this survey. I'll give you a copy of it if you want. They haven't released it, but I got my hands on a copy, and it looked at it.
By the way, DeSantis is sitting in such a bizarre way. Why can't any of these guys sit or stand normally? I don't get it. It's a sidebar. It's not substantive. I'm sorry. Let's move on.
Surveyed people, I think 16 to 28 barriers to service, and beyond the ones such as don't want to die, don't want to be injured, don't want to be away from my family. The biggest issues were the number 2 issue, women and racial or ethnic minorities are discriminated against in the Army. Wokeness is listed here, but it's only number 9.
Okay, so let me pause right there. Okay. What Jake Tapper is saying is, if you ask young people issues with the military, if you eliminate the obvious ones why people don't want to serve, like you might be killed, you might be shot, you might be hurt, you'd be away from your family. You take all of those reasons off the list, then wokeness is 9th. Okay, that's already hilarious. Listen to Ron DeSantis' explanation.
Would suggest that wokeness is not as big.
Well, but I think there's an issue about, like, not everyone really knows what wokeness is. I mean, I've defined it, but a lot of people who rail against wokeness can't even define it. And so I think it's a sense of, this is not something that's holding true to the core martial values that make the military unique. And I can tell you, the veterans, you don't have to look far and wide. Go to a VFW hall, go to an American Legion. There's huge amount of concern about the direction that the military is going with all this. And here's the thing, things like DEI and all that stuff, it hasn't worked in other aspects of society. It very well may be on the constitutional chopping block in light of the Supreme.
Right. So he just starts bobbing and bobbling his head, unable to accept the reality that this is a fabricated issue. And then lastly here, DeSantis is asked, do you think moving further to the right makes you more electable? Take a listen.
So this issue gets into the state of the race because some of your supporters are disappointed that your campaign has yet to catch fire the way they would want in terms of polling. One Republican pollster, one who is sympathetic to you, I was asking her about your campaign, and she said she thought the issue was you bumped up at the beginning because Republican voters saw you as a more electable conservative like Trump, Trump without the baggage. But then they say as you go further and further to the right on some of these divisive social issues that could alienate moderates, suburban moms, et cetera, Republican voters see you as less and less electable. What do you say to that analysis?
Well, I don't think it's true. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, I took a state that had been a 1-point state, and we won it by 20 percentage points, 1.5 million votes. Our bread and butter.
All right, so this is a completely ridiculous answer. He talks about a state where at the presidential level was often an extraordinarily small margin. He says he won it by 20. He won it by, I think it was 19. So that is close. But that is not really evidence that he is viable as a presidential candidate. And if you want to talk about the proof being in the pudding, it's that he, over the last 4 months, has lost a third of his support in the 2024 Republican presidential primary. So this was billed as the great coming out party for Ron DeSantis, where he would lay out his vision and show how articulate and precise and strong he is. He did none of those things. A pathetic implosion. Jake Tapper also didn't do great, could have pushed him on a number of those issues, including so-called post-birth abortions. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Jake Tapper doing a so-so job, but Ron DeSantis really imploding. People in my audience trying to quit smoking or vaping, this is for you. You can't vape or smoke inside. You're tired of people seeing you put those little pouches in your lip. There is a nicotine alternative that people won't notice to help you quit. Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Our sponsor Zippix makes the only nicotine toothpick on the planet that is FDA registered. You can use it anywhere, work, restaurants, airplanes, sporting events, after a meal. The toothpicks stay in a convenient little tube that goes in your pocket or on your keychain. It's way more convenient than carrying around a huge can of pouches all day or a whole bunch of gum or whatever the case may be. Zippix nicotine toothpicks come in flavors like peppermint watermelon, sweet wood, cinnamon, whiskey. If you're not a nicotine user, try out their B12 toothpicks with caffeine instead, a quick and easy alternative to coffee. Do your lungs a favor, cut the cigarette smoke, cut the vape juice. Quitting has never been easier with Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Go to zippix.com, get 10% off with the code PACMAN10 at checkout. The link is down below.